Hi, people. This is a consolidated lecture and problem solving that covers both chapter and 8. First of all, if any of you are in business or are curious about all the rules and regulations for IRS, uh, withholdings and filing requirements and forms and so on, uh, it's widely known and it is known as Publication 15. You can get it at irs.gov. It's also referred to as Circular E. It is called the Employer's Tax Guide. So if you're out there in business and you're doing your own thing, I would advise you to pick one of these up. As for Massachusetts, there's a ton of publications out there. I would just do a search for the Mass Department on mass.gov, gov, and the Department of Revenue, or just do a Google payroll employers, Massachusetts Employers Tax Guide, and you'll get a lot of the same sort of stuff that the federal provides all in one. But that unfortunately crosses over many different documents or publications. Okay, but let's get to this particular problem. And I'll create a payroll register down here for you in kind of basic form. We have 3 employees, Woodward, Thomas, and McCann. One guy is salaried, so he earns $2,000 a week. So that if and I already did, we always start out with the gross pay. And so we'll fill that hole. And the reason why we keep these cumulative figures here is this is from up to this point in the year. These people have earned 98, 40, and 42 respectively. It has no bearing on the employees' withholdings uh, whatsoever for purposes of doing the employee's journal entry, because we need to keep our eye on the cumulative because there are caps for the FICA, the 6.2%, which I'm sure you saw in your book, using different caps, but the cap for 2015 is 118,500. So with this week's pay, nobody's going to be going over anywhere near the 118,000 ceiling. After which there would be no more withholding for FICA. Now, mind you, FICA is a two. It has 2 separate taxes. One is for the old age, that's for Social Security benefits, survivors benefits, disability benefits if you get injured prior to reaching retirement age. But the old people collect the pension, survivors get a benefit in the event of a death of a dependent or whatever, of the head of household, a dependent of the head of household, a disability. That means if you become disabled, and the I stands for insurance, OASDI, old age survivors and disability insurance. So the existing rate in 2015 is 6.2%. Once any employee during a calendar year, if they make that kind of money and they pass 118.5, there will no longer be a deduction for the FICA tax. However, the Medicare tax at 1.45% is on 100% of anyone's earnings. So you can earn 200, 300, 400, $500,000, and you're going to get nailed all the way for the 1.45%. If you read the updated documents, there's another 0.9%, which is added on to the 1.45 of the excess earnings on top of, I think, about 230, 240, 250. But you'll find it in the small print. There's an extra 0.9 on the excess over, say, 230, 240. So those people will be paying actually 2.35 on their earnings in excess of that threshold of 230,000. Let's just say, okay. but nobody gets away with the Medicare tax. And I want you to know I want you to know FICA. Not only do we withhold from the employees the two parts, both OASDI and Medicare. Not only do we withhold, uh, but the employer also has to pay in for FICA both parts, 6.2%, and also the 1.45 or whatever it tallies to. Okay, so the employer matches whatever the employee pays in. The employer has to dig another amount for these two taxes, uh, so that there's a combined liability, meaning that the employer not only has to remit your share as an employee, but uh, he has to kick in the extra 7.65%. Self-employed people have to bite the bullet and pay as if they were both employer and employee. So anyone that's a sole proprietorship, like someone I know very well, Ahem, has to pay in 6.2 plus 1.45 times 2. It's like 15.3%, a self-employed person. Not an employee, a self-employed person. Okay? Now, let's just fill this thing in, and we'll try to go as quickly as possible. What I did here is state of Massachusetts withholds at around 5%, so that we're going to put in 5%. Let me get my calculator up there. Obviously, 5% of $2,000 would be an even 100. Okay, and for the OASDI, be careful when you use your calculator. Be careful when you use your calculator, because we're going to take 2,000, okay, and we multiply times 0.062. That will get you your $124, which you would stick in there. 124, and then the Medicare. Once again, be careful with your calculator. Be careful with your calculator. You want to make sure you enter the correct decimalization of the percentages. In that case would be 2,000 times 0.0145. That's 1.45%. And then we figure that to be $29 for this guy. And his health insurance is 50. We'll do the cross additions after we finish, and then we'll get everybody's net pay. Okay, now I stuck in this person here earned at the rate of, what's his hourly rate? I give you 13 and 17 respectively. Okay, so the regular, excuse me, the rate of pay is $13 an hour for this guy. It's $17 an hour for this guy. Now this guy gets time and a half because he worked 6 hours over the 40. So in computing, uh, the uh, regular pay and the overtime would take the 40 hours. That's the regular pay times 13, and that amounts to $520. So I'm going to stick his regular in there, 520. Now the time and a half is 1.5 times the regular rate. So if I just showed you that real quickly, if his regular rate is 13, and kind of do it in your head, times 1.5, 1.5, there's your time and a half, and then you can see that his rate would be $19.50 for the 6 hours in excess of 40. So we can just take that 950 while we have it up there and multiply it times those extra 6 hours and plug the overtime pay in here. What was it, 117? Okay, so we're going to stick that 117 in there. Now the total then, if we add the 117 to the 520, that's going to come up to 637. So we throw those two numbers together. 520 plus 117 equals 637. So that's done. His federal income tax was already calculated either by the percentage method or a table method that you might have seen in your textbook. Um, most companies are up and running on a computerized system. All the variables are entered with respect to the individual's weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, monthly salary, the number of exemptions, the filing status, married, single, head of household, and on it goes. So we'll take 5% of the gross pay, okay, which is 637, and we'll stick this. That comes to 3185. So we'll put the 31.85. Again, that would be 637 times 0.05 equals $31. And for the OASDI, once again, you take the gross pay. It's all taxable. No one's over the ceiling here. So we take the 637 times 0.062. So would calculate the that to be $39.49, 39.49, and the FICA Medicare, I'll show you one more time, would be the gross pay. Clear that out. The gross pay 637, and we would multiply times 0.01, that's 1%, and a little more. Okay, so we get that in there. That's $9.20. We'll round it to $9.24 and stick that in. 9.24. The health insurance is in there, so we're all set with that, and we're all set with this guy for the time being. Okay, and then we'll go down to McCann over here. He's straight pay, 40, no overtime because he's not over 40 hours. The interstate commerce, if you're involved, your company is involved in interstate commerce, the law requires that you be paid time and at least time and one half for hours worked in excess of 40. That's the law. It doesn't apply to local mom and pop stores. So you do what you can with your boss, okay? So that, anyway, we multiply the 40 times the 17, and we get $680. We get 680, and there's no overtime. So his gross pay is the same, 680, and 5% of 680 is, we got the 120 already filled in, but for the state income tax, 5% of the 680 comes out to $34 even. Okay, and then once again, you're all taxable, 680 times 0.062. Your calculator will read $42.16 for 2.16. And if you put in your calculator, all taxable, 680 times 0.0145, you're going to get $9.86. You're going to get $9.86, 0.86. And that does it with respect to the individual deductions for everybody. So now that if we cross add, that's what we'd be doing. We'd be taking the deductions for everybody that start right there, right? And then we want to fill in the total deduction column. Alrighty, so I've already got them here in front of me. Obviously, we gave everybody a flat $50 deduction to pay Blue Cross, Blue Shield, whoever. But anyway, we'd run the arithmetic across, starting here: 400 plus 100 plus 124 plus 29 plus 50. We'd get 703 for that column, or that row. Rather, 703, The next guy, again, what are you going to do? You're going to run these numbers right across. All right, and fill that in as 240.58, 240.58. Where'd I go with that? Not where I wanted to go. Okay, let me just get back over here. Let me get that out of there. And let me get that over here where I want it. So we put the 240.58 in there. Let's not forget the guy had federal income tax of $110. That got wiped out. So we put it back in. Okay. All right. So and then we're going to grab this guy here, McCann, starting from left to right, 120 plus 34, etc. And that's going to sum up to 256.02. So we put in 256.02. That's his total deductions, and then we're ready to. We don't need to put the total hours. I suppose we could, but we won't worry about that. Certainly, we don't need to add up the rates. That doesn't apply. You could add up the regular and the overtime, but then again, you get this $2,000 up here. I'm not going to worry about it. What I am concerned with is that you get the total gross pay, which is 3317. Okay, you get 3317. You know that your federal income tax withheld sums up to $630. The state income tax withheld is going to be 165.85. So we'll get that total in there, 165.85. We're going to get the sum of the 6.2 tax, which is the FICA tax, 205.65. And we're going to get the sum of the Medicare, which is 4810. All right, now let's just finish off this net pay for each of these people. The payroll formula is to take the gross pay minus the total deductions. So that if I took 2,000 minus the 703, I'd get a net pay for this guy of 1297, 1297. Okay, and if I took this guy, gross pay 637 minus total deductions of 240.58, we'll stick the 396.42, 396.42. And we'll do the same with McCann down here. His total gross is 680, and we will subtract 256.02 in order to get this guy's net pay, which is 423.98. 423.98. Okay, again, it's always the basic payroll formula is gross pay less deductions equals net pay. We'll be able to prove that on the bottom. If we get the total deductions and run those through, they should come to 1199.60 if we add this column right here. Okay, then we can take the total gross minus the total deductions. So let's get the total deductions. 1199.60. And we'll put that in. And then if we take the total net pay, we add the three up, 1297 even. Okay, 1297 even plus 396.42 plus 423.98. We should come to 2117.40. So we'll put that 2117.4. I wouldn't leave the table without checking the math. Again, I just added those three up, and I added those three up. And now we want to make sure that if we took the total gross pay of 3317 and subtracted the, here, let's cross our fingers, okay? What we're doing is we're proving this worksheet here. So if we took 3317, which is the total gross pay, correct? and we subtracted out the deductions of 1199.60 minus 1199.60. Hopefully, when we hit the equals button, we're going to get 2117.40. So we got a bingo. All right, guys. So that would be the completion of the payroll register. How far are we in here? Okay, 20 minutes. Let me come back with video number 2, and I'll do the journal entries for you, which are presented in chapter 8. Okay, so this should be helpful. I gave you some information on FICA, what it covers, and the fact that it's 2 separate taxes that are paid by both the employee and the employer. Now you read in red here, we'll be talking about that when we do the employer's tax liability in well, everybody's over the ceilings here, so we'll have to kind of recreate some sort of a journal entry in order to record the employer's payroll taxes, which will consist of the FICA, both parts, 6.2 plus 1.5, and whatever the rate is for the federal and state unemployment taxes, FUT, federal unemployment tax, SUT, state unemployment tax. Typically, accountants accrue it at the rate of about 0.8%. That's less than 1%. 0.008 in your calculator. State would be 0.056. That state rate is given to the employer by the Department of Revenue, or Department of Employment Security, I should say, based on how frequent layoffs occur within the companies, and there are ceilings and caps and so on, which we'll talk about in the next video. Okay, so I think we are in good shape with respect to understanding. I know you did your homework, and I see it, and I appreciate it. And but nevertheless, this crosses over both chapters, so I want you to have it. And so I'll just click the old Donna Rue button here. Where is it? Okay. See you the next one.